let's prepare to go into the sanctuary, where today's message is already in progress.
While you're standing, I want to summon your senses and invite your intellect to the gospel that has been recorded by Mark. The gospel has been recorded by Mark, chapter number 5. And I want to lift this familiar passage of scripture. I hope you do not get bored with your familiarity. And we want to lift this story that's tucked here in Mark chapter 5. I want to begin reading at verse number 21. Your Bible should read, "And when Jesus was passed over again by ship unto the other side, much people gathered unto him, and he was near unto the sea. And behold, there comes one of the rulers of the synagogue, Jairus by name. When he saw him, he fell at his feet and besought him greatly, saying, My little daughter lies at the point of death. I pray you come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. And Jesus went with them, and much people followed him and thronged him. And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and had suffered many things of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, was nothing bettered, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched the hem of his garment. For she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in herself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, You see the multitude thronging you, and you are saying, Who touched me? And he looked round about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, Daughter, your faith has made you whole. Go in peace and be whole of your plague. I want to tag this text, How to Stop the Bleeding. You may be seated in the Lord's church. A few weeks ago, my wife gifted me with a birthday gift to Vegas. And I'm not going to tell you what I did there, so don't be nosy. While I was there, I had a chance to catch, for the first time, a show of David Copperfield. And many of you very well know Mr. Copperfield is a master illusionist. And I was impressed with his show because I noticed that at his show, he did not make anything disappear. He made things appear. And that moment, he paused at a certain part of his show as a teaching moment, as he uses magic and illusion to inspire people. Unbeknownst to us, when we walked into that theater, we were all given wristbands, and we were under the impression that the wristbands were just to account for our paid presence. We didn't know that the wristbands were part of his presentation. At some point in the middle part of his show, he directed his support team to cut the lights out. He asked all of us to lift our hands that had the wristbands on them. We all lifted our hands. And through one of his illusionary methods, he made the word trust appear on our bands. He said, I want everyone to keep your hands lifted because you have just demonstrated what trust is. He said, trust is the ability to lift your hands in the dark. I wasn't sure. He didn't know there was a preacher in the audience. He didn't understand that while he was doing magic, there was a message. That the ability to trust is the ability to be in the dark and still be able to reach for something. This little anonymous sister in the text demonstrates what trust is. She reached for something. Within the context of her debt, her disconnection, her disassociation, her discomforts, and her deficiencies, she reached for something. She reached and grabbed the hem of him. And something changed on the inside of her. Mark's account of this story is one of three. And one thing that is consistent with this story is that all of the synoptic writers do not disclose what she's sick of. They only reveal what she's sick with. Because if y'all like the Bible a little bit, the text says she's struggling with an issue of blood. The problem with that is that bleeding is not a sickness. Bleeding is a symptom. We don't know what she's sick of. We just know what she's sick with. Nobody understands the source and cause of this bleeding. We can't honestly say it's related to anything menstrual. All we know is it is a bleed that has been going on for 12 years. She has been bleeding, and what we understand about any type of bleeding is that if you don't stop it, it will stop you. Whatever you're bleeding with, you got to stop what you're doing and tend to the bleeding. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, we are not privy to the source of her bleeding because the writers, by the leadership of the Holy Spirit, want to highlight the effect and not the cause. Maybe we got to learn from this story that the effects are worse than the cause. As a matter of fact, there are several people looking and listening at me right now. You're still struggling from something that happened one night. years later. You're over that one night, but you're still struggling with the effects of what happened in that one moment. And thus we can celebrate, ladies and gentlemen, that Jesus can cure it, even if we don't fully know what it is. And the theology tucked in this little story is that this is the results of a sister who was able to have the wherewithal to reach her hand in the dark. That's all I want to tell you. That's all I want to tell you tonight. If you got the ability to look past your limitations and can reach your hand out when you don't even see what you're reaching, Jesus got the power to change the situation even when you don't even see when or where or how he's going to do it. Y'all don't mind if we just walk through this little Easter speech and share some chicken later on. Can I tell you, church? Can I tell you, church? Here's her story. Here's her story. Here's her story. If we're going to stop the bleeding, we're going to have to first of all realize the consequences. We'll have to realize the consequences. If you got a Bible and you like it, the text outlines the consequences of bleeding. The first consequence of bleeding is that it has social consequences. Because she is struggling with this hemorrhage, this abnormality of bleeding, she is ceremonially unclean. According to Leviticus chapter 15, verses 25 through 27, text says those women who struggled with an issue of blood had to be taken away out of their communities, and they were declared unclean, and anything they touched or sat on would be declared unclean. You missed it, so let me give it to you. You notice people who are hard to get along with are people struggling with issues. They're not social, they're not talkative. They always find a problem with everybody but themselves. There's something wrong with everybody. There's something wrong with the world. They are struggling with pessimism. Nothing is good enough. Nothing is right enough. Nothing is bad enough. They are the cream of the crop and everybody else is peons. They don't socialize. They've got some social issues that are prohibiting them from associating with regular society. Not only are there social issues, but ladies and gentlemen, there are physical issues. She's been bleeding for 12 years. That simply means she's uncomfortable in her own skin. I got some people around here who don't like nobody else because you don't like yourself. You don't like looking at yourself. You can't stand to be in a room with yourself. You got to always have company. Got to always be on the phone. Got to always talk to somebody. Got to be in somebody else's business because you don't like your own business. Struggling with the disease of nosiness and can't let somebody else handle their own business. You know some folk like that. Uncomfortable in their own skin. Can't stand to look at themselves. Always critical of somebody else. Don't like themselves. Text also presents some generational consequences. You like the Bible, you'll discover the context we read, verses 21 through 24. Jesus has just been invited by Jairus to Jairus' house to cure his daughter, and the text says, my daughter is lying at the point of death. That's present tense. And this woman, ladies and gentlemen, is an interjected parenthesis. She doesn't have her own story. She's really a part of Jairus' story. Lord, I wish I had some help here. She don't have her own story. She's part of Jairus. As a matter of fact, when you get done reading verse 34, Verse 35 says, and while he was speaking, a servant from Jairus' house comes and says, your daughter has died. I'm going to try it again. When verse 21 starts, verse 21 is about Jairus and Jairus' daughter. Jairus' daughter isn't dead yet. She's at the point of death. She's alive. And then this sister with issues interrupts the walk. Jesus, on his way to address the clean, got to heal the unclean. And while he's talking to the unclean, the daughter of the clean dies. I'm going to try it one more time for these people right along here. Verse 21 is Jairus' story. It's in the present tense. This sister interrupts the walk. And by the time Jesus gets done dealing with her, the girl dies. I'm going to try it one more time. He's on his way to deal with Jairus' daughter. Jairus' daughter is alive. By the time Jesus gets done dealing with this grown woman with an issue, the young girl dies. You still acting funny? So let me just tell you, you got to deal with your issues, because it's some young people who are dying because of grown folks' issues. I'm trying to talk to y'all right along here, but you trying to act funny, so I won't talk to y'all either. I got some young people who are dying because you grown folks won't address your own issues, and as a result, the next generation is suffering. Don't sit there and be mad at me. I'm just trying to read the text. The girl might have stayed alive if this woman hadn't interrupted with her issue, but Jesus had to deal with grown folks' issues, and now this little girl has become a past tense reality. I won't tell some grown men in here, you got to deal with your issues before it affects your son. I need to talk to some women in here and tell you need to deal with your issues before it affects your daughter. Got to address your bleeding. It has generational consequences. It has social consequences. It has physical consequences. But if you like the Bible, it has financial consequences. The text says, Lord have mercy. The text says, Sanders, she went broke over her issue. Lord have mercy. She had money, but because of her issue, she went broke over her issue. I don't know if y'all feel like talking back to me, but if you don't say nothing, it's probably proof that you got some expensive issues. And you got to address your issues, because they are affecting your finance. Text says she spent all she had because of this issue. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, she ought to preach to us today that you need and I need to address our issues, don't we will experience these consequences. Maybe if we are brought to the light of these consequences, we will give immediate attention to our own issues. And I like what she does. She says, listen, tell those good loving people at fellowship that I am an example of what it looks like when you don't address your issues. But at least in addressing her issues, when you realize the consequences, you have to now make the choice to restrain from costly choices. I'm in the Bible. Come here. Listen what she said. I'm around verse 27. Here's what the text said. And when she had spent all she had, she went to doctors and kept spending on her issue. Now the text says she didn't go to one doctor. The text says she went to doctors. Come here. The text says she went to doctors. So what that means, Foreman, is that she has two issues. It means she has an issue of blood, but she also has an issue of opinions. Because every doctor she goes to is a second or third opinion. Lord, I can't get no help here. And the text says, because she kept going to these doctors, Mark blows the whistle. Come here. Mark is not a physician, Oscar, but I had to consult with Luke, who is a physician.
And Luke's language on this don't agree with Mark. As a matter of fact, I'm just suggesting that right along in this passage, Mark and Luke didn't get along. Luke says in Luke 8:43, here's what Luke says. Luke says her situation got worse and the doctors could not heal her. Mark says her situation got worse because she went to doctors. I didn't make that up. Look at verse 26 and 27. Mark says, and when she had suffered many things of the physicians, and it got worse. Luke says, no, we just couldn't heal her. Okay, since y'all struggling with the semantics. Luke is saying, Tony Loudon, that her situation got worse and her body is to blame. But Mark is saying her situation got worse and the doctors are to blame. Okay, it just makes sense that Luke would take his position because Luke is a physician. And Luke, out of good practice, is not going to let somebody dog his practice. And it's highly possible that Luke is one of the doctors she went to. So he got to protect his trade. Because it's possible she might have went to him. Because, since he got something to say about it, it's highly possible. He's got a diagnosis that maybe, her body didn't respond to how we treated her. Mark blows the whistle and said, no, it's y'all fault. You got too many opinions and your issue is getting worse. Y'all will probably get that around Wednesday at about 10 o'clock. You got so many opinions of everybody in your spirit, which is why your issue is getting worse. Can I make another recommendation? Blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but delight in the Lord and meditate in his word, and there you shall prosper. Stop listening to people who don't listen to God. Why you keep listening to folk that don't know the word? You got too many opinions in your spirit. And your issue is getting worse. Now, I would that y'all would just allow me to share my struggle with this passage. Because Hudson, she's sick. Sick people are supposed to go to the doctor. I said she's sick. Sick people supposed to go to the doctor. I can't really follow for that. She went to the doctor. She's sick. But this text says her issue got worse after going to the right people. How do you handle life when your issue gets worse after going to the right people? I want to suggest, if y'all let me just disclose my little struggle with this text, I want to suggest that the reason why this happened in the text, because it was meant to push her to Jesus. Okay, y'all missed it. I'll try it again. Sometimes, y'all, God got to let what you think gonna work fail, so you will go find Jesus. Because if he let the doctors work on this patient, then she would have had faith in the doctors and she wouldn't have never went to go get Jesus. Sometimes, y'all, you came to Jesus because because your friend let you down. You came to Jesus because your pastor was not there. You came to Jesus because your circle wasn't there. And thanks be to God, God sometimes has to schedule successful failure. Preach, Tolan Morgan. He got to let some stuff you think gonna work mess up so that you will go find him. Sometimes going to the right people won't work, and that's gonna make you go find Jesus. All right, I'm gonna prove it. Y'all got the Bible? Y'all ready? Verse 27 says, and when she had heard that Jesus was there, she goes and finds him behind the crowd and touches the hem of his garment. I'm gonna try one more again. And when she had heard, she goes and finds him. Get behind the crowd and touches him. Nope. And when she had heard. You've been by English class. The text doesn't say then she heard. If it said then she heard, it means she would have just heard about him right then and there and went to go find him. It says when she had heard. That's past perfect tense. It means, y'all, that she heard about Jesus either before or going to the doctor. But she made the mistake that you and I make. Instead of putting Jesus first, she put Jesus last. Okay, I'm gonna prove it. I'm gonna prove it. I got some claims that I can only back up with the Bible. Y'all got the Bible? I want to prove to you she made Jesus last. Touch your neighbor and say she made Jesus last. Look back at him and say, don't make this mistake. Grab the Bible. I'm going to prove to you she made Jesus last. She knew about Jesus when she was going to the doctor. But she wanted to work it out her way, which is why her stuff ran out. I'm going to prove it to you. You got your Bible? Verse 25. Verse 25 is called an issue of blood. Verse 29 is called a fountain of blood. Verse 34 is called a plague. Still slow. Verse 25 is an issue. Greek church translates it's a random discharge. Verse 29 is a fountain, which means it's constant, ain't stopping. But verse 34 is a plague, which means if she touched somebody else, they gonna contract what she got. Had she went to Jesus when it was an issue, it wouldn't have never become a plague. Still ain't feeling me. If you go to Jesus when you got a little problem, it won't have to become a big problem. But you wait till it become a plague when you should have took it to God when it was an issue. And now don't nobody want to be bothered with you because they don't want to catch your issue. Tell your neighbor, take it to him when it's an issue so it don't become a plague. You heard about Jesus when you was going to the doctor. But you waited. Now you broke. Come here. She told me to tell y'all something. This point is free. She said, tell them why I'm broke, Pastor. I kept spending money on doctors and nothing was changing. She said, I got to tell y'all, if you want to keep your money, stop investing in people that's making a deficit and not a difference. Oh, see, you don't want to say nothing. All of us got that one person in our lives that make a debt and not a difference. She kept investing in people who wasn't making a difference in their lives until she finally ran into Jesus. And she touched the hem of his garment. Thanks be to God. God can handle it even when it's at plague status. Christ can cure it even when it has reached plague status. Well, that's what she does. Now, listen, there's a side of this passage that y'all got to help me struggle with, because I don't know where this come from. I don't know. I'm just telling you what the text says. Text says, when she found the crowd that was following Jesus, that means her faith had to break her own tradition. Because the law said she got to be excommunicated. And she said, no, I'm reaching in the dark for something different to happen in my life. And I know where that Jesus crowd is at. So I'm going to get with them. But listen, on her way there, she surfaces her own theology. I don't know where this comes from. I wish y'all could read the Bible around here. I don't even know. I ain't never heard this before. She says, if I may but touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made whole. Time out, time out, time out. I don't know where that come from. But apparently we all can conclude that suffering will cause your theology to come out. I ain't never heard nobody say, devil have mercy. When the right pain hits your life, when the right struggle hits your life, when the right tragedy hits your life, even if you ain't never called on the Lord before, you're going to say, Lord, have mercy. I don't know where she got that theology from. All I know is, listen to what she says. She not only gave herself a proposition, she gave herself a conclusion. Oh, my Lord, have mercy. Come here, come here. Let the church say, if I may. Can y'all read the Bible? When she said, if I may but touch the hem of his garment. All right, now all of you intelligent people going to struggle with this. But when she said, if I may but touch the hem of his garment, she talked to herself. Now, psychologists would suggest she crazy. But sometimes you good church folk in here know, sometimes you got to talk to yourself. Lord, I wish I had some help around here. Now, don't you answer yourself, because you'll be crazy for real. But sometimes you got to learn how to encourage yourself. Do I got anybody in here who's ever had to be your own preacher, your own praise team, your own praise dancers, and encourage yourself? Anybody in here have to talk yourself through work some days? Listen, let me talk to myself before I cuss somebody out. Anybody have to talk yourself driving down the street? You on your way to something you already know is a hot mess, but you got to talk to yourself and say, Lord, if you don't hold my mind right now, it's going to be all trouble in here. Thank God he'll give you the power to talk to yourself. Hey, Val, watch this. She not only gave herself a proposition. London, you about to run on this, doc. If you run, I'll run with you. She gave herself a conclusion. Y'all miss what she said? I'm going to repeat it because you miss what she said. She said, if I may but touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. I didn't make that up. It's in the Bible. She said, if I touch the hem of his garment, I will be made whole. When Jesus healed her, he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you whole. Still slow. They missed it. She said before she touched him, I'm going to be made whole. After he touched her, she touched him, he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you whole. I'm going to try it one more time for the slow people back in that corner. She said, if I touch him, I'm going to be made whole. By the time we get to verse 34, he said, daughter, your faith has made you whole. He said what she said. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Because if you got enough faith to speak it, he's God enough to do exactly what you said he could do. Because death and life is in the power of the tongue. Anybody in here gonna believe God? Hey, sometimes you ain't got to wait for nobody to prophesy over you. You ain't got to wait for somebody to speak anything over you. You tell yourself what you want to see done. And if you got the faith to believe it, God got the power to do it. She got her own theology. She talked to herself. She put in her own conclusion. And then she gave herself her own posture. Bud, come here for a second. Bud, come here for a second. I need all of y'all in that front row. All of y'all. Come here. All of y'all. All 6 of you. Come here. Come here. Yeah. Yeah, all of y'all. All of y'all. See, sometimes people got seated by they don't see it. Okay. So, Jesus here is on his way to Jairus' house. He walking. He walking. And it's a crowd following Jesus. 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 Crowd following Jesus. Yeah, crowd following Jesus. And Jesus is walking. And he's on his way to Jairus' house. And it's a crowd following Jesus. And they don't see her. He just walking, And the text says, she comes and touches the hem of his garment. Okay, Lynn ain't happy. So let me see. Jesus on his way to Jairus' house. Jesus walking. Oh, Jesus walking. And it's a crowd behind Jesus. She runs up and touches the hem of his garment. Because she understands that some stuff ain't going to change on your feet. Something's going to change on your knees. She got to understand. She got to get through that crowd. Do I got anybody here who testify when you drop down on your knees and say, Father, I stretch, Lord, my hand to thee. No other help I know. Grab somebody and tell them, neighbor, you got to get this one on your knees. Would you just tap one person on the shoulder and tell them, pray about it. Pray about this one. Pray about this one. That's really what prayer is. That's really what prayer is, y'all. Prayer is you reaching in the dark Lord, I can't get no help here. Anybody ready to pray about whatever you got on your mind? Because that's your way of reaching for his hymn. All right. I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, yes, sister. You're going to help me close in a minute. Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm done. Hey, Derek Martin, this is the sweetest part of the text. Listen, she'd been bleeding for 12 years. And she grabs the hem of his garment and she gets power in her body. The Bible says the fountain of her blood was staunched, meaning stopped. And Jesus, watch this, he didn't just heal her, he saved her. Okay, you missed it. When the text started, she was woman. When the text ends, she's daughter. I'm going to try one more again. Reading is fundamental. When the text ends, she's a woman with an issue. When the text ends, she's a daughter with an inheritance. She's been translated, Lord, I wish I had some help here, from being outside the will of God. Because she was unclean when the text started. But now she's a daughter under the Lord's house. And when she got to be daughter, she was getting ready, y'all. Here's the tension of the text. Loudon, she getting ready to run off without being heard. And Jesus says, I got custom made clothes on in here. Who touched me today? I had this custom made. Who touched me up in here? I like the disciples. I like the disciples. And they're like, Jesus, come on, man. For real? And you see all these people behind you. You're talking about something, who touched me? The question is, who ain't touched you? No, Jesus said, no, somebody touched me because virtue left out of me. Okay, you missed it. Hey, Brains, this is a free point. He said virtue left out of me. He didn't say virtue left through me. I'm not the conduit of power. I'm the source of power. Ain't nothing going through me, something coming out of me. Lord have mercy. I'm not just God's son, I am God. And everything God got, I got inside of me. I wish I had some help here. The power has gone out of me to heal, and somebody touched me. Hey, Jesus, you are God. Why are you asking a question? If you're God, you're omniscient. If you're omniscient, you never have a need to ask a question because you know all things. Somebody who know everything don't ever ask a question because they know the answer to their own question. So why are you asking a question? Jesus never asked questions for answers. Jesus asked questions for attention. Who touched me? Because whoever I just healed got to speak up. Still slow. Who touched me? Because I can't let my glory bless somebody and they don't turn around and give me glory. God is getting sick and tired of y'all treating his blessings like you in some kind of secret love affair with God, and you treating it like it's a sin. If God has been good to you, you ought to say something. If God has blessed you, you ought to open your mouth and make sure he gets the glory. I need you to speak up, because I don't need you to walk out of here and not give me the glory. Can I ask y'all a question? Who saved you? Who healed you? Who blessed you? Who kept you in your right mind? who gave you the activities of your limbs, do not be quiet about the blessings of God. I'm done. Thank y'all for tolerating this Lalisha speech, but I'm done. I just want to tell you this. There's another reason why he asked her, who touched me? Ministers of music, he asked her, who touched me? Because Jairus is listening. Lord have mercy. She don't have her own story. She is part of Jairus' story. And the servant has just come and told Jairus, man, your daughter is dead. Lady, I need you to speak up. Because if Jairus can see me handle a 12-year-old disease, he can see me handle your 12-year-old daughter. Is it anybody here who needs to testify today? Because you are a part of somebody else's story. If I can handle a 12-year-old disease, I can handle a 12-year-old daughter. Let me bid you farewell. I see that green light coming on. I'll bid you farewell. Ladies and gentlemen, oftentimes we miss the miracle reading the miracle. Night. The miracle was not that she got healed of this bleeding. The miracle was she bled for 12 years and didn't die. See, y'all acting funny, so let me talk to these people over here. See, y'all just shout over your miracle, but you need to shout over your management. That God has kept you until the miracle came. Is it anybody here who knows I'm under God's management? That he's keeping me until my miracle shows up? "12 is the number of management." Okay. I said 12 is the number of management. The blessed, y'all, is that if she's bleeding, she should have lost life. Leviticus 17:11 says that the life of the flesh is in the blood. If she was losing blood, she should have lost life. But she was bleeding for 12 years. It means that God was managing her and keeping her until she ran into Jairus, because really Jairus' story was the initiation that got her healed. Or just grab somebody and tell them, I'm under God's management. Just tell them I'm under God's management. God is keeping me until my miracle shows up. Okay, y'all still slow. What month is it? Ooh, it's the 12th month. Yeah. And it means that God has been keeping you. And I got myself a witness in this place. Would you slip your arm around somebody and tell them, neighbor, we're in the 12th month, and now I've got to give God praise, not for my miracle, but for my management. Have I got a witness here? I said, have I got a witness here? There are 12 months in the year. There are 12 hours in the AM. There are 12 hours in the PM. There are 12 gates to the city. There are 12 minor prophets in the Old Testament. There are 12 apostles, because 12 is the number of management. It means that even when God is not working a miracle, he still is holding your hand. Have I got a witness here? And as long as you're under good management, he'll let you run into your very blessing. Now, here's what the text means, that on my way to my miracle, he's been keeping me, he's been sustaining me, he's been holding me up. That's what he did to Jesus, y'all. He did not spare him from the cross. He just managed him while he was on the cross. And 3 days later, he gets up with all power in his hand to come back and tell us that when you're in the Lord's hand, he'll manage your life and he'll keep you even when you've been bleeding. Would you grab somebody by the hand? I said, grab somebody by the hand and tell them, neighbor, I'm not just shouting today over my miracle, but I'm thanking God for his management. If it had not been for the Lord who was on my side, I should have died a long time ago. But thank you. You kept me through January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and now December. God has kept you together. Now I don't understand why you still sitting there looking at me, but I wish it was somebody who tell yourself, if I praise him, I'm gonna feel better. I'm not waiting on nobody else to give him the glory. I got a self-involved praise. I said I got a self-involved praise. Let everything that knows how to talk to yourself, let everything that knows how to praise him for yourself, give him glory. Would y'all do me a favor? Would y'all do me a favor? Go find somebody who's not sitting next to you, who just appreciates that God kept him. He didn't have to do anything but just keep you. He didn't have to work the miracle. He's just keeping you. Go celebrate with one person who appreciates the fact that God is a keeper. He's a keeper. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. little secret? Your story is not your story. So what God will do, God will let you keep your management. He'll manage you until you run in the person, till you run into the person that God ordained for your miracle to manifest. Because what we found out, your story isn't just about you. Her story was meant to bless Jairus. And he kept her until she met Jairus. And Jairus was used of God to create the context in which she would shift from management to miracle. I got a question for you. Why ain't you dead yet after all you've been through? God is just keeping you because you got something to do with somebody else's story. And when he works it out for you, he gonna work it out for them.
Thank you for watching. Fellowship Bible Baptist Church is located at 431 Dunbar Road in Warner Robins, Georgia. Join us for one or any of our worship experiences. For more information about our church, visit our website at fbbchome.org.